Hello and welcome to No CB, a grand strategy podcast for the week of August 12th, 2020.
12th of August, actually.
Yeah, no, I'm going to concur with Loris here.
Okay, fair enough. 12th of August, that's fine. I am TJ Hafer, and we have with us our wonderful panel, including Rose.
Hello.
Including Lambert.
Hello there.
Including Father Loris.
Hi. Hello.
And joining us once again is Paradox's own Johan Andersson.
Hello, everyone.
And we're bringing Johan on this week to talk about the 10th anniversary of Victoria 2, which just happened recently, which will kind of be our big theme topic for the show. So we're not picking favorites here, but everybody's favorite Paradox game, Victoria 2. Yeah. The 10th anniversary just passed, and Johan, you actually wrote a kind of a retrospective on the development of it. But for people who haven't read that yet, what does Victoria 2 represent for Paradox? Maybe like what did it do that hasn't maybe been done since? Why is it important? Why is Victoria 3 still such a meme? What is Victoria 2 about, and why was it important to the company? I guess is sort of the thrust of the question.
Important to the company? I don't really know. I think like Victoria 2 was the last of a game back when we did computer games in a special way. Like we used to be a small studio, averaging 7 to 10 people, mostly around 8 people, releasing one game every year. Also making 1 or 2 expansions at the same time with that group. And Victoria 2 was the last game we made that was done in such a short time. After that, we did Crusader Kings 2. Then everything changed with the new business model and everything. Mm-hmm. But Victoria 2 was also a game about a lot of it was a simulation. Because if you're looking at the 4 big ones, as I view it, that define the different games we did, we had Hearts of Iron. There was a lot of was always the wargaming game with counters and supply lines and diving down into super detailed grognard things. Then we had Victoria, which was like the economical political simulation. Crusader Kings was one, and then EU4 was another. So those were the 4 pillars we built everything on. And Victoria, we haven't really done anything different or similar to Victoria since then, because Crusader Kings took off dramatically compared to Victoria, and so did EU4. And EU4 was, it's super popular, probably the most played games we've ever made, and people still play that game. And it's a really, really good, great strategy game, very, very much about balance and anti-snowball and all these semi-board gamey, but still deep. But it's not a simulation. Mm-hmm. And we've not done any simulation games since Victoria 2.
No, it's true. And it's unique. Like you said, the different Paradox games focus on different things, right? We see Crusader Kings is far more interpersonal, and that's fine, as you said, as for wargaming. But Victoria is, I think, unique, maybe apart from Solaris, where the focus, I think, is mainly on internal politics for social changes that happened in the time period.
Well, I can say, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I love Victoria 2. One of the biggest reasons is I think it's probably the only strategy game that has ever had such a kind of accurate focus on the will of the people and like reaction and counter reaction. Like if you try to go really, really capitalist, you're going to end up making your people more socialist. If you try to go really, really socialist, you're going to end up making your people more libertarian, which I think, is fairly accurate, at least once people get educated, which in Victoria 2 is represented by the consciousness system, which I also love.
I always pinned consciousness down as sort of class consciousness.
Kind of, yeah. But also like literacy affects consciousness a lot. When people can actually read, I mean, that's kind of part of why the Protestant Reformation happened, is a lot of people are like, wait, all these things they've been telling us in the Bible is not actually what it says in the Bible. I like that a lot because, I mean, kind of on a fundamental level, people don't like being governed. And whatever kind of, I mean, I think Johan and I have talked about this over beers, whatever kind of government you live under, you're going to end up hating it because people don't like being governed. Like that's kind of the, something that I think Victoria 2 models very well is, there's always going to be a counterculture. If you let it go too far, that counterculture can turn into like a revolution or a counter-revolution. That's sort of the heart of Victoria 2 to me, and why I still love that game and think it's very special, even though mechanics-wise and especially interface-wise, it doesn't really hold up to the newer ones.
I was when we were talking about this like political thing. I was just thinking about it because we have all this like political reforms, and you also have the social reforms. And since you can build every different type of country in Victoria and you can make it semi-successful, you can create, I don't know how many people are aware of what Bismarck did in the 19th century or late 19th century, how he built up Germany, was introducing all of these social reforms just to make the country more stable, because people are not going to get upset if they don't have, I mean, now I'm sounding a little bit cynical, but you can mitigate a lot of political unrest for having no social liberties, etc., if you're having social security.
Yeah. I think that's especially when you're playing a nation such as Russia, right? So Russia's really interesting, Vicky, I think, because it's quite a backward country at the start of the game. It's very deindustrialized, and your people demand social reforms, but also you've got a very strong ruling elite. There's not many people with a lot of education. But really, the way to survive as Russia is you really do need to reform quite quickly, in my experience, right? But you sort of get a pushback. There's far more reactionaries and far more socialists, quite radical socialists in Russia that form towards the late game. And that's just because, the natural reforms that happen in the country, and it's not through events either. You don't really get events in Victoria that like make Russia far more polarized. It's just something that naturally develops within the game, which I think is really interesting in Vicky.
Yeah, it's most of the stuff is done for code with all these systems like hooking together and looking at the various things and simple scripts that evaluate everything.
I think what I like as well is it's more than any other Paradox game. I think Vicky encapsulates the decline of an empire better than any other. I mean, the Ottomans are the big example. They're the sick man of Europe at this time, and the game really does do a good job of showing that. If you're playing as the Ottomans, you can turn it around, but it's a struggle. It legitimately is a struggle. There's no quick, easy fix. There's no, if I win this war, then I'll turn everything around. Or if I pass this one event or reform, I'll turn it all around. It is legitimately a struggle to turn around your fortunes. And you start so big. It's really very unique in that it shows the decline of a once giant is really interesting.
And I think that's a lot of outside forces too, because the gameplay encourages quite ravenous colonialism from the great powers, right?
Because you want to access the goods. But it's also one of the things that we really try to do is like early in the game, we wanted to like, okay, if we're going to simulate like communism and fascism and social democracy and all of those constitutional monarchies, they should all be viable strategies to play. They should all feel different. And it's like, that's why you have only when you're like have super state capitalists, you can only do whatever you want with all your factory building. But obviously central planning in a huge country like Russia is super inefficient because you have to do everything manually yourself.
A lot of stuff to do.
So how do you think you would tackle that challenge today? Like if you were going to do a game based in this era where you wanted communism, state controlled industry to be as viable as just let the capitalists do whatever they want. Like, how would you fix that issue where it was like everybody just wants to go capitalist because I don't want to figure out what factories I need to build in all of these states?
That's why capitalism is the choice for the easy people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I always went state capitalist, so that the capitalists will build stuff, but I can also build stuff.
Yeah,
I can delete your stuff if I think my stuff is better than your stuff.
Yeah, I think I do the same. And then later on, I think once your economy is a bit more developed, go liberal because you get that lovely bonus if you go laissez-faire.
Well, like I've thought about in the past, like maybe you could have like some sort of a system where instead of capitalists, you'd have bureaucrats, and then you give the bureaucrats a focus, and then they decide what to build based on the focus you gave them instead of micromanaging. Yeah.
It would just be inefficient, and I will just hire more bureaucrats.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
To meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy.
And then you have a reform to consolidate the bureaucracy into a single system. We could call it, we can give it a fancy acronym, something like UBI or something like that. And it vastly reduce your costs on bureaucracy, and then everyone else is happier as well. And it works great.
No, I think that sounds reactionary. I'm just going to purge the bureaucracy and start over. Yeah.
Your way of reform sounds reactionary. I'll just purge instead. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Just purge
Okay, I see what type of government you form.
I thought I was the bloody 40k fan here. Oh god.
So, Johan, why do you think this game is such a fan favorite with people?
Because we've not made a sequel in 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've the people have been asking for a sequel for this game for
Probably since
longer
like CK2
than,
came out.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because it is a fan favorite, but it's a very cult game because I don't think it hasn't performed sales wise as well as a lot of other Paradox games.
I think a lot
classic is really
I think that's the key thing. It's more like it was the last in an old era where you can't really judge to the new one where we have constant releases and updates and so on. So you can't like judge play numbers and those things. So I think it's totally wrong to claim that it's a niche or a small cult or whatever.
That's
Definitely suffers from the same UI issues that you see in like the original Crusader Kings. I think I have about 7 hours in Vicky 2. I loaded it up, tried to figure out the UI, and then eventually closed it down and never have opened it up again. And I've got hundreds of hours in the other Paradox games, or 2,000 hours in CK2.
Most of my playtime has been copying say I've got two screens open. I have a YouTube video of someone playing the game, and I'll be copying them, trying to learn the mechanics. That's how I learn all Paradox games. And then trying to apply that to another country. It's like, I'll try this country now. And it's like, I'm lost. I don't know. The countries are so different. I don't know what I'm doing. Is certainly a UI feature. Is why it's not got the player base as it should.
Can I discuss another thing there? I saw a comment. Someone doing the old myth of, is it true that the whole economy system was coded almost overnight by someone who no longer remember what's there? That's not really true, not true at all, because the world market and economy system was done by 2.5 programmers spending half their work time on it, and all of them except one is still at the company. It's Podcat, famous for doing Hard Time 4, coded the bulk of that programming, and he knows that economy inside out. Yes, King wrote the design. Besukhov coded it, a lot on it, and Tegus optimized it. But Podcat knows it and claiming that, the reason why we're not doing a wiki free is because nobody understands the economy system. Yeah, that's a lie. That's completely
I don't even remember where that rumor got started, but it's spread around a lot.
You know what? I think it's Podcat doing it himself. He wants to just claim that.
No one can do this. No one at all. Don't make me go back into that economy.
And it's just so funny whenever when we hire new people like Wiz when he started and Grugi and other programmers, they've been playing Victoria 2 and I go like, there's a bugs in the economy system. I was going to fix the one in Victoria 2. And I'm like, a few days later, they're like jaded, cynical, old.
To work next day with like 5 o'clock shadow and like a huge bill.
It's like World War I shell shock just from looking at the code. Well, how?
And then it turns out you hire the equivalent of Tony Stark, and he's like, "Oh, I've done it." And you're like, "Okay, now we're making Victoria 3 because we have somebody who can do it."
That is not a major problem with the world market code, etc. There's just some small numbers that sometimes get lost because of rounding errors due to computers, the bit, what do we call the decimal numbers, etc. So
yeah,
there's
I have a feeling they get lost in industrialized China.
TJ, were you ever visiting the Stockholm office at Paradox? When we had the big office where we had the code on the walls.
I think so. I've been to 3 Paradox offices at this point, so yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw. I've been to the 3 most recent offices.
We moved last autumn, but the one before that we were spending like 4 years. In the main room, there's like flags, etc. on it. But on the walls, there's code, and there's code from Victoria 2, where basically when the world market code is losing money because it's rounding errors losing it, we inject more money into the system, and it's called like random magic Banzai code. So the actual code that inserts money in the world market was printed on the walls at various places.
Nice.
That's why we're joking.
Well, magic money being printed into the code is that not just what central banks do? Is that not what the Federal Reserve is all about?
Yeah. So you mentioned Johan that obviously it was a much smaller team back when you were working on Victoria 2. What are the advantages of that style of development versus what is going on now, and like what are the disadvantages? Because I'm sure it's not like, oh, this is better and this is worse.
Me personally, I prefer working in a small team because I find it more to the style I like to make games. Also, you get a much higher velocity when you're like 7-8 people. Everyone talks with each other. You don't have anyone else to talk with, etc. You don't need to have lots of different meetings. So you get stuff done quicker. And if you're looking at the Victoria 2 team, we were like, a lot of them had done games for a few years, and the average experience level was pretty high then. A lot of us had worked on multi-games. Like Besukhov, me, and Podcat, we've done E-Rome and Hearts 3 together. And then we were doing Victoria 2 together with a new programmer joining us in Tegus. And me and Besukhov before Hearts Iron and E-Rome, we've done E3 and Diplomacy and Hearts 2 together. So
I suppose it's also quite like a lot of businesses, right? Where small businesses, there's no corporate bureaucracy or anything, and everything's done face to face on sort of verbal agreements and stuff. And when you expand, I guess there's a lot more forms, a bit more bureaucracy and stuff.
Yeah, but also like you need more managers when you grow bigger. You need to sync things, and also these days we sell the game on so many platforms. You need to do those things there, all this marketing, all this communication. There's so much more communication required when you're a bigger company.
Yeah,
and also not to compare, like when we're doing games like Victoria 2, making the map was trivial. But if you're looking at when you're making a map mod these days, the amount of work you need to do to make new textures, painting the map, even with the tools, just takes so much more time.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I guess Victoria just had a sort of 2D map, right? It was quite stylized in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. The level of detail in the Imperator map and in the CK3 map both are really impressive.
Yeah.
Speaking of detail in map, there's an interesting question in chat from Prigoli again. Have there ever been any plans or discussions to re-release the older titles with a remastered map, such as like Vicky 2?
We talked about doing those things a lot of times a few years back, but it was not something we wanted or could do.
We had an episode where we were joking. The episode title was March of the Eagles Remastered because we were joking about that exact thing. Yeah. Yeah. You guys
that game with the shit.
Yeah. Get 3 to 5 people together for multiplayer and play some March of the Eagles. I've said it before, but it's a really good multiplayer war game.
It's very good.
It still holds up as a multiplayer war game to this day.
I'm a big advocate for 2D maps, but I have to admit about March of the Eagles, not the prettiest map. Sengoku, however, my goodness, that's a nice 2D map.
It is
That's a
nice.
beautiful
It's
one.
very small map.
Yeah.
The 3D map, you can rotate it and everything.
Oh,
Really?
I feel.
I don't
Yeah, no, you're right, actually. Yeah, come to think of it. Yeah, I mean, it had like a sort of,
Imperator sort of always points north, and no matter where you're at.
Imperator's got that's curving, though, where you zoom out, curved globe.
I don't think it is actually curved, though. I think it's just a camera trick, right? Like the Imperator map? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a camera trick.
Yeah.
It's a good trick. It fooled me.
Yeah. It fooled like everybody at the first preview of it.
Well, the secret is the globe is really a camera trick. That's the secret, and that's what you should know about.
Yeah, the Earth is actually flat, and when you go into space, that's actually just a camera trick that the developers put in. Yeah.
The world is flat.
Yeah. So confirm, Paradox it believes in flat Earth. No.
No, we believe in a cylindrical Earth because that's far.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
There's one thing I actually want to bring up as well. Sort of ties into both, cylindrical maps and 3D maps, and also Victoria at the same time. There is a mod being developed for Imperator to Victoria 2 in Imperator. As
I saw that.
Basically, the goal of it. I've given us a map of it in our chat if you want to pull that up.
Sure.
And basically, they're basically trying to put Victoria into Imperator, which is really going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to giving it a try. They plan on using the civilization mode, the civilization value in Imperator as a sort of way to emulate industrialization instead.
Fantastic.
So that's something I'm super looking forward to. The one issue that they have though is Imperator's map isn't a cylinder, and so you can't actually go all the way around the world. They are doing something where they'll have you can sail around the world, but you won't be able to just keep moving the map left forever.
Yeah, I guess you could just save it like the provinces on one side of a map are adjacent to the ones on the other side of a map, right? And then
I think so.
Wow. Like they even added the Americas in there? That's crazy. Yeah.
So that's just in development right now. That's the only image I've got for you.
That's a hell. I mean, I just love the time period. It's my favorite. I mean, I would say that. I mean, like it's all coal and steam, and cultural affinity for that. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's also the most interesting time in Asia, like the Meiji Restoration, the Boxer Rebellion. 100 years of humiliation, and then finally the Republic, China being proclaimed. It's amazing. It's a wonderful time period.
Yeah, you got the Heavenly Kingdom. Was that the Anlushan Rebellion? Is that what I'm thinking of? No, what is the
Taiping Rebellion? I think it's
Taiping. Anlushan was way, way earlier. Yeah.
There's a bug with that map, though. I see 2 bugs in that map we're looking at.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a Norway there.
No, but it is coloured in Sweden's colours because it's a subsidiary of them.
But Prussia is blue.
Yeah, no, I actually totally agree with that. I really quite prefer the Prussian grey in EU4. If you bring up yellow Prussia, you're off the podcast.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree.
Well,
I think Prussia is better for grey because there's so many countries that are blue that it's always... because if you're fighting France or Sweden, it's like hard to see the difference sometimes.
Yeah,
that's not the reason I prefer grey. I just think it's a nicer color, and it's the reason that I don't form Germany, because I don't like the color of Germany. Okay, I'll stay as Prussia. Thanks.
Yeah.
you could edit and just we can edit what you say, and we can have a quote where you're saying that I just don't like Germany.
Yes. Clip it, folks. Confirmed. Lambert does not like Germany, along with Ireland.
That's on brand.
And France.
And France, yeah.
So he's
okay. I'm not an Anglophile. I'm a Finnophile, and I'm English. That doesn't hate my country. So
Finland owning England is
you're not
totally
very English.
cool.
Yeah.
I love my adopted country. It's fine.
Yeah. No, Finland's gorgeous. Fair play to Finland.
Well, and you live in the Swedish speaking part of Finland, so you're basically a Swede, right?
Nay. It's great though, because Swedish much easier to learn than Finnish by several orders of magnitude.
Oh yeah. I mean, at least for an English speaker, certainly.
Yeah. I'd say for everyone that isn't Estonian or Hungarian, Swedish would be easier.
That's another thing about Vicky too, which I quite like. Thinking of map colors, is when you change your government, for a lot of countries, you change your map color, which I really appreciate personally.
And your flag.
And your flag. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. The amount of flags.
The amount of flags. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. It was so much fun to design, like the fascist flag, the democratic flag, the default flag, the communist flag, etc. It's especially for Sweden. Like if you're looking at it, you have like the hammer and sickles for when you're communist, and you have the Vasakärven, which is basically the, how to put it? It's not the fascist, but it's kind of like if you're looking at the Swedish national symbol, you have it's similar to it. So that we use that for the fascists, etc.
For Sweden, I've got a list. I've got an Imgur link here with all of the flags in Victoria too. There's a lot. There's a hell of a lot of them. Swedish fascist flag. Where are they? I'm looking for it now.
There is actually some. I wouldn't say controversy, because it's fucking Wales. But like, in our opinions, don't matter for bollocks. But I think there's a few. So there's a symbol in Wales called the White Eagle of Snowdonia, and anyone looking at it could obviously know that it's a far right fascist symbol, which it is. But there's a lot of Welsh nationalists that are sure that it is a sort of a good symbol, I guess, sort of like about liberation and all good things and all that stuff. But my goodness, and it is used on a lot of fascist flags in Victoria too. So
is it like the X with the angles on the top and the line down the center?
That's the one. Yeah.
You know, that's in Victoria. Because literally I've got a Imgur link of all of the flags.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is.
How much
art time did it take to make all of those flags?
I really don't know. It's like we had one 2D artist and one 3D artist, and we worked from like September to June. So everything. So
wow.
I don't think it took that long of a time to make most of them.
I mean, it's I certainly, whenever I play a country, first thing I do is go into the files and find out what my flag is going to look like, depending on what nation I am, and it does dictate how good my flag is.
The Welsh one almost looks like a bind rune.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's an obviously fascist symbol, but like
interesting. Yeah, I mean,
I'm now going to find the Finnish flags and see which one's the best.
I like the CSA communist.
Yeah. I just like the idea of it.
I like the United States monarchist one. That's my favorite one. And I don't know if you ever tried to do that. It's very difficult, but it is possible to make the US a monarchy, and you get a glorious flag when you do it.
Oh, I've never done that before. I've done that in EU4, but I've never done it in Vicky 2, actually.
It's tough. You have to go through, you have to get a dictatorship, then turn that dictatorship into a constitutional monarchy, and then you switch back, I believe, to an absolute monarchy from a constitutional, and then you get the flag.
Interesting.
CSA communist flag it looks a lot like Austria's, the white in the center with the red bars on top. And then in the top left is like a star with a laurel wreath around it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So the USA monarchist one is like, it looks like the presidential eagle seal, but he's holding a spear and a sword.
Yep.
And no olive branch.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's a good one. I also love that for some reason Cyprus's or fascist flag just says K in the middle. Like,
are we going to be fascist
now?
Yeah.
K. Yeah.
Well, there's a whole very interesting thing about like heraldry in Soviet art and stuff, which I think the flags in Victoria too certainly play into that really, really well. It's all grains. And stuff. It's almost monarchist, the heraldry, but
I like
with grains and tractors and stuff.
I like the Greenland fascist flag. It's just a blue flag with a bear on it.
So Johan, I know obviously you can't talk about future projects that haven't been announced yet, but with this new studio opening up in Tinto, do you think you might be getting back a little bit more to like a Victoria 2 style of development?
I don't really know. I'm never going to make a sequel to Victoria.
Oh, well, Johan, thanks so much for coming on the show again. You're always welcome back, obviously.
Definitely. It's an absolute pleasure every time.
Yeah. You guys can follow the show. We're no CBcast pretty much everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, SoundCloud. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on all the cool stuff.
YouTube.
Excuse me, YouTube is cool. Why aren't we on YouTube?
I did say in the Discord that I would start putting the episodes on YouTube when Victoria 3 comes out. So you guys can hold me to that.
But Victoria 3 is not coming out until Paradox runs out of toilet paper.
Okay, so if you want the episodes on YouTube and you want Victoria 3, you have to go burn all of the toilet paper at the Paradox offices. That's obviously what needs to happen.
So we're waiting for the second wave of Corona then?
Please, no.
If it comes out tomorrow, then I'll honor that commitment.
God, I'm like half tempted to just do it myself.
Okay.
Make your own Victoria.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Johan?
I was just going to say, just make your own Victoria game.
Yeah.
You've already got the trademark rights to Victoria.
Well, you can call it Bismarck or something.
Yeah, but Victoria's cooler than Bismarck because she's English.
Just start your own studio and make your own grand strategy game about the Victorian era. Yeah,
because my lack of modding skills is going to just completely go away when it comes to making a game instead.
What you do is you just change the title screen. That's all you need to do. Done. Just keep it as any other game.
Oh, Rabbit Boggling is pointing out Victoria is also German, so...
Yeah, and Rabbit Boggling is
And she
wrong.
married a German.
All right.
All right.
We are supposed to wrap it up.